Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is episode 134 of the School to Shred. This is the show that's designed to help you shred your old and make better your new, baby. Welcome to Monday. There is only 4 days left until Christmas. Who's excited out there, Shred Nation? Who's excited? Raise your hand. Throw Santa Claus in the comments if you're with me. Throw a flex emoji in the comments if you're with me. If you've got after today, you know the drill. Being part of Shred Nation is a full contact participation event. Church, can I get an amen? We're going to talk about 12 rules of fitness this week. So we're going to have 3 episodes this week. This is part 1 of 3. What we're going to do is I've come up with something so cleverly named the 12 rules of fitness. And we're going to go 4 each day this week for the next 3 days. And then we're taking the weekend off. I'm taking Thursday and Friday off. No show. So you be with your family. You be with your friends. You be with your thoughts. You be with Santa Claus. Cookies out Santa Claus. I leave out kombucha and broccoli for Santa Claus. And he seems to like that. We've had a little bit of ranch dressing for him, a little bit of yogurt. So drop a comments. Yep, there we go. Instagram, better jump on here. You better say what's up. Shout out to Instagram. So we're gonna be talking about 12 rules of fitness and how you can charge your body with muscle, drop body fat, and get more energy. And the 12 rules. And for lack of a better term, I used rules because there's really I have a mentor who doesn't like rules when we say there are rules of exercise because there's no rules. Everything depends, but 12 laws of fitness, that didn't really make sense. So just go with this one, if you will. So with 12 rules, today we're going to be talking about is creating a calorie deficit, controlling insulin, eating single ingredient foods, and drink more than you need. That's not alcohol, ladies and gentlemen. That is water. Drink more than you think you need. That's what we're going to be talking about. And so the idea here is if you want to be in great shape, you want to have low body fat, you want to have muscle tissue, you want to have energy in your life, that's what we're talking about. These are 12 tips that I'm going to give you over the next 3 days. We're going to dig into them that are going to help you achieve that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the first one, which is calorie deficit. I'm going to pull it up on our screen here. We're going to show it. If the tech will work, there we go. All right, number 1 is create a calorie deficit. So this is a big one. We've talked about this before. This is one that's some emotions out there more than one, just because there, some folks seem to think if you create a calorie deficit, you can't possibly think about football at that point. But it's both. It's what we're talking about today. It's both, but to lose body fat, we want to create a calorie deficit. Now, sometimes feeding more food can create a calorie deficit because it speeds up the metabolism. It speeds up the process of like heat energy in the body. So, but on the whole, what we'll do here is if you take your body weight, so say you're not in a calorie deficit right now, but you want to get in one. If you take your body weight and you multiply that by 11, okay, multiply that by 11, that's going to give you a general guideline of a calorie deficit, okay, and that would be where you'd want to start tracking calories from or eat about that, and that number is really the average, so it wouldn't be 1 day, okay. You can certainly undulate your calories. I recommend that. I recommend rotating the caloric consumption. What I mean by that is if you land the plane on a 7-day average at 20, say the calories that you need to be in a deficit, maybe one having 1,200 calories next day, 2,500 calories. That is certainly fun. When you start lifting, anything like that, that will happen naturally, and this can help the body with this adaptive thermogenesis that can happen because you're throwing curveballs at your system all the time. But a calorie deficit is important that we should be focused on when we're focused on long-term metabolic health. And I think that's where a lot of the story ends for some advice that I see out there, which is that's all you need to do. It is the low-hanging fruit, but we want to be worried about some other things as time goes on. We don't want to just end there. Now, certainly, it's a good start. And so a loose recommendation, again, a loose recommendation. I'm not going to do the full equation on like the Harris-Benedict equation. You could look up that. I have different equations I use for my clients, which is we calculate activity levels. But just for you listening to this right now, this is a great place to start, because what you have to realize is no matter where you start with your calories, you're going to have to revise. Because if you're taking your body weight every single day and you want to lose 1% of your body weight per week, okay, you're taking your body weight, you do a 7-day average. The minute you plateau, you're going to need to change something. So you're going to have to revise, okay? And that is going to change this whole equation. So you can have the best equation in the world. It doesn't really matter if you're in a calorie deficit, all right? Or if you're changing, your body's going to rotate and get used to it. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. My phone just died because it's on low battery mode. So I think Instagram doesn't get today's episode now. So many distracting things happen when you're trying to do a show. Anyway, so that is the first part of create a calorie deficit, is body weight times 11. You can start there. So if you're a 200-pound person, you're looking at about 2,200 calories a day. And then you can start to chip away from the old block as you plateau. Remember, if you want to lose body fat and lose weight, you want to aim for about 1% of your total body weight loss per week. That's a good gauge to start. And then when you create a calorie deficit, it's the smartest thing you could do is eat foods that encourage proper neuroregulation of appetite. Okay. Neuroregulation is a really cool sounding word that just means controlling appetite. Okay. When you eat foods, when you eat whole foods that I encourage, when you eat clean foods that if it's your macroers like to make fun of people and say, well, what's clean food? Is it, do you put Clorox on it to clean it? No, it's whole food. Okay. Single ingredient foods that we're going to talk about. When you eat those types of foods, they take up more room in your stomach. They fill you up quicker, and they create neuroregulation, which is appetite control. They suppress the appetite. So you're much more likely to get rid of cravings when you're in a calorie deficit, when you're eating foods that help with neuroregulation of appetite. Okay. And so creating a deficit is really comprised of those two things, is calculating and being in a correct deficit. Okay. Now you can do that through tracking calories. That's the most precise way to do it. Or you can do, eat by portion sizes and whatnot, and just take your weight so you know where you're going. And then the second thing is eat foods that encourage neuroregulation. Now, the reason that diets work when people don't count calories is usually because they do some type of fasting, or they do whole food eating, where they're eating single ingredient nutritious foods. And when you do that, again, neuroregulation kicks in. You tend to not eat. You tend to not overeat. And so that can certainly work as well. So you don't have to count calories. Okay, you don't have to count calories. You can count calories, though, if you want to. And this is where it's not one or the other. One thing I like to tell my clients when they have very drastic fat loss goals is, if you want precise measurements, or if you have precise goals, you need to take precise measurements, or you should want to take precise measurements. Tracking macronutrients can certainly be beneficial, definitely in the short term. For long term, for a lifetime, I think that depends on the individual. I thought I was going to track calories forever, but I don't do that anymore. I haven't done that in a few years now, because I'm more concerned with this neuroregulation thing and being in tune with my body, and eating as well-rounded of a diet as I can, throwing the organ meats in, eating nose to tail, eating a very ancestral way of eating. And what I've noticed is that there is a big-time neuroregulatory effect that happens when you do this. So either way, but you do need to create a calorie deficit, whether you are aware of it on paper or not. That's what you're doing if you're losing weight. Okay, even if you eat more, you're going to notice that. Okay, so the next thing is going to be control insulin. Okay, so this is where, again, I think this stuff can be confusing, because, well, if you create a deficit, doesn't it not matter? Doesn't anything else not matter? For long-term metabolic health, and I'm going to keep saying this, long-term metabolic health, okay? Long-term, not short-term, long-term. I'm not talking about trying to get your sexy muscles popping so you can go to the beach, okay, and then you can come home and then put that weight on plus some. I'm talking about losing weight, keeping it off, keeping your body healthy, staying away from metabolic syndrome. Fit-looking people get diabetes when they're adults. It happens. It happens for sure. We want to control insulin too. We want to be thinking long-term with all this stuff. So that's why control insulin is number 2. And so creating a calorie deficit can control insulin. Okay, it absolutely can play a factor in it. But if you're eating certain types of foods, it can also have erratic blood sugar, which is going to increase insulin. And we're going to talk about some of the other stuff where we need to have metabolic flexibility so our brain can burn fat for energy. And that keeps us from hypoglycemia, which gets us on the spectrum for diabetes. So anyway, let's talk about controlling insulin. How could we do that? So metabolic fasting is great for controlling insulin. Now, a lot of people think that this is a fad. It's a trend. This is one of the reasons that the metabolic fasting can be very important for health, long-term health, is because what it does is it challenges the body. It challenges the mitochondria to create energy when there is no food present. And it challenges your body to be more resilient. So it doesn't get these little bumps of food all the time, because although, in today's day and age, it's pretty easy to get food. For most of human history, it was not easy to get food. And our bodies are much more resilient, and it seems to be one of the things that keeps good metabolic health is challenging that by doing metabolic fasting, because it creates this thing that we know of called cell autophagy, which flushes dead mutated cells. We recycle them and use them for energy. And so metabolic fasting can help with that, and a whole list of other things I've talked about many times before on this show. But it also helps control insulin. And how does it do that? So when you go for a prolonged period of time without eating, what happens is, anytime you eat, whether it's a high protein food or a high carbohydrate food, even fatty foods, is you're going to secrete insulin, right? It's a hormone that is important for storing nutrition and storing nutrients. When it's elevated too high for too long, you put on body fat. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's how often are you utilizing it, right? It can be a tool that you can use to put on a bunch of mass and size and muscle, but it's also it's a tool that you could use in the reverse end to burn a bunch of body fat if you keep it low. So when you metabolically fast, what you're doing is you're not eating for a prolonged period of time, and so there's no insulin spikes. And so this puts you in the best chances for keeping insulin low. And when insulin is low, something called HSL is high, which is hormone-sensitive lipase, which helps you break down and cleave fatty acids to get them into the beta oxidation cycle of fat burn. That's what beta oxidation is. It's basically fat burn, where your body can actually break down triglycerides, get them into circulation, and use them for energy. Okay, and triglycerides are your storage form of fat. And so when HSL is high, insulin must be low. And when HSL is high, you are burning body fat. Okay, and when you're burning body fat, you have energy. You are reducing inflammation. You are reducing toxins in your body, because our fat is where we're holding toxins. So there's a lot of other stuff than just the way we look that's makes it beneficial to burn fat. And to burn fat, we want insulin to be low. All right. If we want to put on a lot of muscle, if we're like young, if we're like, 18, 19, 20 years old, and you're trying to put on as much lean muscle as you can, yeah, you want to utilize insulin a little bit more. But you could also do that with fasting, where you chill out insulin's effects, but then maybe you do a big insulin dump post-workout. So maybe you fast into a really hard resistance training session, and then you gorge on your food and you spike insulin, and you can grow that way. Certainly, if I could go back in time, I think that's what I would be doing. Is I would be doing that bulk cycling that I used to do, which is where I'm eating a ton of calories and I'm eating very frequently and spiking insulin. But then I would have these mini cuts where I would do a lot of fasting. And then, because fasting, what it does is helps spike growth hormone as well when insulin goes down. And then you can spike it when you go to eat again. So you basically, if you fast, growth hormone will go up. You get a workout in after a long fast when growth hormone is high. You take advantage of that high growth hormone spike. And then immediately after, gorge on your protein, your carbohydrates, spike insulin, get the body into recovery mode, and put on muscle. So anyway, so that's how you control insulin. That's one way you control insulin, is through metabolic fasting, right? So it comes down when you're not eating for a prolonged period of time. The next way you can control insulin is no polyunsaturated fats, no vegetable oils, no corn oils, no soybean oils, none of that toxic crap. We want that out of our diet. If there's one thing that I'm never going to say is healthy, it's going to be polyunsaturated fats. Sugar, we're going to talk about that in a minute. We want a diet low in sugar. You don't want to have no sugar. Now, you could have no sugar if you want to. That's a personal choice. But it's important to be able to separate that, eating fruits and eating certain sugars. I mean, hell, even having certain types of what we would call quote unquote junk foods with sugar in them, it's not as bad as these polyunsaturated fats. And the reason is because these are not natural oils. These are industrialized oils that have only been around since the 60s in these vegetable oil forms where they're stable at room temperature, where they're a liquid. They have to go through a tremendous amount of processing to make them actually edible for human consumption. They're highly prone to oxidation, which creates free radicals in the body, which puts us at risk for cancers and things like that. But not only that, our cells can't actually use them. Our mitochondria can't actually use the energy from these fats. So the way that we burn fat is different between a saturated fat from an animal product and then these new industrialized vegetable oils, these polyunsaturated fats. And so something that can happen when we have these polyunsaturated fats is if our mitochondria can't use them and our brain can't burn fat, when our brain runs out of sugar, it signals to the liver that it needs to produce more sugar. And then when sugar levels go up in the body, insulin is released. The insulin takes the sugar out of the body, stores it in our fatty tissue when our muscle and liver is topped off, which happens rather quick. And then we hit this hypoglycemia cycle again when we're not able to burn fat. And so we want optimal fat burn in our body for brain energy, as well as getting rid of a lot of the nasty fat that we don't want to see. And polyunsaturated fats can really throw a monkey wrench in this whole system. And so we do not want oxidized fatty acids. We don't want these oxidized oils. These are disgusting oils. Get them out of your house. Don't have any product with them in them. No vegetable oils, no soybean oil. Get new mayo if you got mayonnaise and you do that mayonnaise. If you like mayonnaise, you can get Primal Kitchen mayonnaise. They do mayonnaise, however you want to say it. But you can get Primal Kitchen stuff that's got avocado oil in there, or make your own with olive oil. But get the vegetables out of your house, you guys. It's not worth it. It's not worth the long-term health implications. Your mitochondria are so inefficient. They're so sluggish when they're trying to burn these fats. And this is why I think a lot of people have a hard time burning fat, because when you store fats from polyunsaturated fats, number one, when you start to burn them, they become very inflammatory. Number two, your mitochondria can't produce energy, so it takes much longer for your body to burn these fats off than it does if they were saturated fats, which would come from animal products, or monounsaturated fats, which come from olive oil and avocado oil. So that's how you can control insulin, because that basically whole cycle creates erratic blood sugar from having these polyunsaturated fats, because of this whole spectrum of hypoglycemia, insulin resistance, pre-diabetes into diabetes. It really affects all of that, even though polyunsaturated fats are not sugars. What they do is they throw a schism and a monkey wrench in how your mitochondria produce energy. And when that happens, you become dependent on sugar because you can't get the fat and the energy from the fat that you're eating. Okay. Whereas you could if it was from natural sources like saturated fat. Okay. So the next one is going to be low sugar for controlling insulin. Low sugar or natural sugar as much as possible. Okay. So what is natural sugar? Fruits, vegetables. If you're doing fruits like, whatever it is, oranges, apples, bananas. Some people are terrified of fructose. If you're eating it from a fruit, you're not going to get too much of it. Okay. Nature packages things correctly. And this is why we're going to talk about single ingredient foods. Nature packages things correctly. If you look in human history, people were not obese when they were eating these one ingredient foods. Okay. If there's a food label on it, you probably got too many ingredients in it. Okay. Now, I eat foods with ingredient labels on them, but I try to eat as single ingredient as I can. And my long-term goal is to do that completely. Where I don't, there's no food labels on the stuff that I'm eating, so it's meats, it's vegetables, it's fruits, it's, very high quality oils, things of that sort. So yeah, low sugar though. And so, having sugar here and there is fine if you are indulging in it. So the issue comes with a lot of these, what we'd call junk foods, is it's a 1-2 whammy. It's a 1-2 punch combo of excess sugar, of refined sugar, which is processed to get much more of it than you'd get from a whole food like a fruit, Sure. Then also vegetable oils are also involved with them, involved in these ingredient lists. So say like cookies or crackers or chips or all this stuff that is kind of demonized for being junk food, right? Well, it's going to contain processed refined carbohydrates, and the sneaky one is these vegetable oils, these polyunsaturated fats. They go together. So I'm not necessarily I mean, I think people need to reduce their sugar intake. Like if you're having high fructose corn syrup, that's been shown to be anti-satiating, meaning it makes you hungrier when you consume it. Um, it also does that because it spikes blood sugar. Blood sugar clears out really quickly. Then you have low blood sugar, so the brain sends signals that you need more sugar. It's this really wicked cycle that we get into. That's why we want to stabilize blood sugar. And when we stabilize blood sugar, guess what? It stabilizes insulin, and we can burn body fat. So but it's more about these polyunsaturated fats, you guys. So no polyunsaturated fats, low sugar from natural sources, if at all possible. The occasion is fine. That's how you control insulin. Number 3 is eat single ingredient foods. All right, let's get back to what our body is designed to digest. This is a big pain point. There's a lot of these processed foods that people think they can just count into their calories and have good long-term vitality and health. Now, you can have some of that stuff here and there. Yeah, it's important to not demonize certain foods, but at the same time, it is a little bit of a cop-out. There is foods that aren't good for you, okay? Polyunsaturated fats are not good for you. Things with them in there are not good for you, and they never will be, not even in moderation. If your cells can't use them, we got to be objective here. We can't have an emotional debate about something that is objective information, okay? And so single ingredient foods tend to be the things that are going to not inflame our body, not cause systemic chronic inflammation. They're going to be the things that our body is designed to digest, assimilate, and make use of in our body. And they also help us neuroregulate our appetite. And so they're not going to hijack our taste buds is one way that I like to say it. A lot of these hyper palatable foods, these new food groups, they're made by companies that are making billions of dollars to get you addicted to them so you eat them more, right? All of these quote unquote junk foods are these foods that, we end up demonizing, which, maybe we shouldn't demonize. We should just realize that they're in their own category. They do taste good. They taste good because people spend millions of dollars to make them taste good, add ingredients that make you addicted, add extra salts and sugars and fats in there to make the textures right. So how could we not understand? How could it not resonate with us that these things are meant to hijack your taste buds so you eat more of them? If you were a business owner, wouldn't you want people to be addicted to your food? If you wanted to make money, that's probably what you would want to do. Well, that's exactly the kind of industry we have right now with food. This is why single ingredient foods, there's not a whole lot of money to be made off that, except for lining our local farmers' pockets, which I think we should get back to. Which is a good thing. That's actual human nutrition. So single ingredient foods, it's just what our body needs. It's just what you intuitively know that. You intuitively know that that's what your body is going to thrive off of. But we try to rationalize that, well, maybe in moderation we could have these other things. Look, you can do it if you want to. I'm not saying you won't lose weight on it. But what I am saying is you're going to have poor neuroregulation, which is that appetite control. And you're going to have to track and weigh all your food because you're going to have to do the calorie game with that, right? Because the neuroregulation aspect is such a big component to this, and I don't think it gets enough credit. And so another thing that single ingredient foods do is they're high volume, high nutrition, lots of micronutrition, so vitamins A through zinc, lots of electrolytes in there, depending on what whole food it is. But then they're also low calorie. So they take up a lot of room in your stomach, and they're low calorie, right? Like vegetables, think of like broccoli and green beans and things like that, salads and, meat, all that good stuff, right? That's going to take up room and not give you a ton of calories. Like the same thing goes to be said if you're going to have an apple. There's going to be natural sugars in there, but the amount of sugar you get compared to the volume you get from the pit, the peel, and the pulp of the apple is going to help the neuroregulation side of it, and you're going to get full quicker. So you're going to be satiated, and you're going to feel satisfied and be able to walk away from the table and not continue to eat. Okay, so that's why single ingredient foods win. So try to have that be majority of your diet. If you go out, say you're going out with friends, or you have the occasional piece of cake or cookies or whatever, that's fine. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the majority of your diet it would do best if you were following these principles. Okay. And number 4 for today, the last one for today before we end the show of the 12 rules of fitness. Now, number 4 is going to be drink more than you think you need. Okay. So water is the first energy drink, people. It's the world's first energy drink. Did you know that? Yeah. It's the first energy drink. And so it improves energy when you are well hydrated. It improves your workout performance. That's been shown over and over. Even slight dehydration can decrease muscular performance in the gym or in your resistance training or whatever it is. You're less likely to go out and walk if you don't have energy. So if you drink water and you have energy, you're more likely to get out and move more, maybe take on home improvement projects, which gets that NEAT up, that non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And then you also have, it helps neuroregulation, right? When you're thirsty, you might perceive that thirst as needing food. And so you'll eat more calories because the neuroregulation is thrown off. And so it can help with satiation when you're drinking a lot of water. And that's that appetite control. And then the other thing is muscular recovery. If you dehydrate, a lot of times your muscles will be extra sore. This is why drinking alcohol after a really hard leg workout will usually have you in pain. You want to be drinking lots of fluids, especially if you're training hard. That's going to help you recover better. So that is the first 4 principles and the first 4 rules of the 12 rules of fitness, all right? Which is create a calorie deficit, control insulin, eat single ingredient foods, natural foods, and then drink more water than you think you need. You could start by doing 15 milliliters per pound of body weight and converting that into fluid ounces or liters, whatever you like. So that's the first 4. We'll be back tomorrow with 5 through 8. So with that, I want you to stay strong and healthy in body, stay relentless and energized in spirit, stay determined in your pursuits. Spell S.H.R.E.D, and I'll go shred the day and get better in every way. Throw me some fire in the comments. If you're still with me, Facebook and YouTube, Instagram's off today. Instagram took the day off because my phone died. So have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. Class is dismissed.